I wanted to check out this video, which shows a 3-minute segment from Tim Pool's show where he claims that he might be going off the air. Now, here's what I'm going to say that's going to happen. He isn't. He's going to stay on the air. I think that this is probably a ploy to fundraise and to get more resources made available to them by emphasizing the danger that Tim Pool and his team are put under. And if you don't know what that danger is, there's been a threat of political rhetoric escalation in the United States, people using more aggressive rhetoric, more partisan rhetoric, more dangerous rhetoric about our enemies and how we need to deal with them, and leading to a wave of violence from people who go out there and are radicalized and do a bombing. You know, the J6 pipe bomber just got caught. And, you know, since he wasn't caught 11 months ago, he wasn't pardoned. So he might actually be the only J6er to get consequences. But there's the J6 bombing. There's an attack on Nancy Pelosi's home. There's the assassination in Minnesota. There's the attempts on Trump's life. There's the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And so Tim Pool references this escalation of political violence and says, this has made it unbearable because it's now too expensive, according to Tim Pool, to produce the program because they need security.
So where does that leave us? We have 2 weeks left in the year before we go on our Christmas hiatus. You know, I'm not a big fan of any kind of hiatus. I would prefer just to work. But it is taxing, it is grueling, of course. And there's a lot of infrastructure here that requires me to work all day, every day, Monday to Friday, with some extra work on the weekends, usually meetings. And I'm probably gonna have a stroke. My health's actually pretty good. My blood pressure is great. My resting heart rate is actually around 45. I exercise quite a bit. Haven't been able to skate in the past month or two, the holidays, and But we have to have these conversations, and I have been with the people, our contractors, people we work with, our vendors, partners. And one thing is clear: the violence will get worse. It is going to escalate. We cannot keep going as status quo. Something has to change. It may be that, as we described after the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the threat to come and shoot up our studio and our workplace, we asked, at what point do we say we can't do this anymore? The cost of running Timcast IRL studio and the projects around it exceeds the amount of money it brings in. That's just that breaking point, isn't it, for any business? If you need $100 to, run your restaurant, but you're only bringing 90, you go out of business.
Do you think, and I'm sorry for just seeing the elephant in the room and identifying it, do you guys think that the hundreds of thousands of dollars that their show is making off of money that came from the Russians, that we now know came from Russian dough, Russian money, that they were using to try to manipulate the American public to boost shows that promoted values and perspectives that aligned with Russia's interest, as Tim Pool banged on his table, slamming his fist, screaming that Ukraine is the enemy. After the FBI revealed that they were making that money off of the Tenet Media scandal, and that money has dried up. Now we're hearing from Tim Pool, maybe 5 to 6 months later, I don't have enough money. My Hungarian financiers have fallen off the planet. I'm not getting that Russian dough anymore. I don't know how to finance this. We're going to have to figure out some way to finance it, or who knows if the show will continue. You guys think that these things are related? That once all of the, black-coated, mystery financiers disappear from the room, all of a sudden, it's kind of hard to fund the skate park in your compound and your podcast show with your big old staff?
The issue? The cost isn't cameras or lights. The cost is security because of the escalation. It's an artificial cost to doing business that we can't balance. We can't forego security, but we can't sustain it either. So I've had some conversations with our partners, been talking with Rumble. There may be a solution, and it's going to be rapid change very quickly. We're going to have some emergency meetings. We've already had emergency meetings for obvious reasons. And there is a possibility that the 19th is the last episode of Timcast IRL. We are doing everything we can to make sure that's not going to be the case. It's no secret that I've been frustrated and disillusioned with a lot of people in politics, but that's no reason to walk away from doing our nightly show with a tremendous success. But the cost is not just money anymore. The cost is the safety of my family, myself, and there are many ideas we're floating around.
Okay, so let me throw out a few things. Number one, Charlie Kirk, who was the person who was assassinated, he speaks at events and big settings out in public where there's ledges and such over buildings with like a good view. Tim Pool is always in his compound, always broadcasting from his podcast studio, and he's not debating people who could challenge him. To be clear, whether or not Charlie Kirk was is highly debatable as well. Just going to college campuses and debating people who are still trying to figure out their place in the world is not necessarily the best way to sharpen your steel against steel. It is the best way to make yourself probably look better by going not to Cambridge to go debate people, but going to the student the student lounge. You're going to get a different type of back and forth with a professor or experts in the field than you are with students. But still, Tim Pool doesn't even really do much of that. If he does have a debate with somebody, it's him with 5 of his friends plus one adversarial guest who, at any point where Tim Pool is, having any trouble, his guests will pile on. So they do very different things in very different environments. I don't know why he would feel that he's a threat or that he would need to increase the cost of the show so substantially that it would put them out of business. With the concurrent that he is getting, with the amount of viewership, with the amount of ad money that should be making, Tim Pool should have no problem financing his show. Tim Pool should have absolutely zero problem financing his program with the amount of donations he gets, with the amount of concurrent views he gets, no problem whatsoever. He does not need security guards at the compound. If he was to do a type of change my mind style event, security might make sense. If he was to go and do some tour across the United States, or maybe even some on the ground reporting, God, I haven't heard that in the same sentence or breath as Tim Pool in a long time, then maybe security would make sense. But for what? What would security even do at Tim Pool's compound? Would they just stand outside the door? Would they just stand out? Like, would there be people standing at the gate entrance to his compound? Would he have people standing at his front entrance? Would he just have like 3 security guards in the room with them in case a guest goes crazy? Would it be all of the above? I really don't know. I really don't know. But the idea that they'd be in the green if it wasn't just for the security costs, just very hard for me to buy unless they really want to go all out on security 365 days a year, meaning that if the lights are on, if they're broadcasting, they got the whole security in there. Look, I hire fixers. I don't hire fixers 365 days a week. I don't keep fixers on retainer. I hire them when I need them. If I need to go to the front, that's when I pay a fixer, right? Unless I have the contacts lined up already myself. So when you need security, hire security. But the only way that security could possibly make Tim Pool's podcast go in the red is if he's literally thinking about doing it every day of the year, which he does not need. That's like presidential style security. Tim Pool is not that much of a risk. And quite frankly, if he was doing a change my mind style event, he pulls that beanie off of his head and the reflection is going to save him from any sniper for miles. So he doesn't have much to worry about. But I do wonder whether or not those financiers disappearing had an impact on this type of messaging. But he'll be back. In a few weeks, you'll hear how they figured something out and everything will be fine. He ain't running away from those concurrent views. No siree. No siree.